Is it okay for an athlete to cry? So I grew up, obviously, as a young athlete, and I had the same sort of sentiments shared with me about crying, which is that you're weak if you cry. You always need to be tough. You always need to be stoic, always show this emotionless face. And there are aspects of that that are important in sports. Like I played pro baseball. So I'm here to tell you that, yes, there are definitely times when you should not cry and being tough is important. And we'll go over that. But one of the big mixed signals is that crying is never okay. And that is absolutely false. Real men do cry, and we deal with our emotional problems and the ups and downs of everyday life, hopefully in a healthy way. And crying is part of that. Before we get going, I want you to leave a comment and keep this in mind as you watch. What scenario do you feel like crying is acceptable in? Leave a comment. Let's start a discussion about it. All right, let's go through a few different scenarios when crying either happens in sports or might happen, and we'll talk about whether or not we think that's appropriate. So number one, when you get injured on the field, but it's like a minor injury. So say in baseball, you take a ball to the lip, like a ground ball hits you in the lip. In basketball, say you take a hard elbow to the side or the back of the head or whatever. Say you roll your ankle in soccer, but you're not going to come out of the game. So in all these scenarios, when it's like a minor injury and you're not coming out of the game, there is honestly no utility in crying. What happens if you start to bawl on the field is you lose emotional control and you have a really tough time refocusing, and everyone else is now looking at you on the field. If you're going to stay in the game, like again, you take that ground ball, off the face or whatever, but you're not coming out, you need to refocus as fast as you can and get back into the game. And emotional control helps you with that. Emotional control is what keeps all the best athletes in the world under control when they're on TV and they're in a stressful situation. The pressure is on. They've maybe made a big mistake. They need to, instead of fuming or getting really angry or crying, they need to refocus on the next task and help their team. So if you're going to stay in the game, and it's a minor injury that's not going to cause major harm to you, like your career is not in jeopardy, whatever, your season is not lost, you're staying in the game, then there's no real utility in crying. Number two scenario, you suffer a major injury on the field. Say you really wreck your ankle. For me, I've had Tommy John surgery, which is a major elbow injury 2 different times. Say you tear your ACL, or you feel like you maybe broke your arm, whatever. There's lots of major injuries that happens in sports. Is it okay to cry then as you're being carted off the field or on the way to the hospital or in the dugout as you're considering what might happen to you? The answer is absolutely yes. And the reason it's different than the little thing is that this is a real potential toll on your career and the rest of your life, right? When I blew out my elbow the second time, when the doctor told me, I was in the dugout, this was a pro game, it was like the middle of the season, I walked off the field, I found a tree just to be by myself, and I wept. I wept like a little kid. I cried. And it was because I knew that my career might be over. It was a really hard moment coming to terms with the fact that I needed another surgery. I would miss the rest of this season and the rest of next season. And there was a huge emotional toll on me. So there was the physical pain and the fact that this had real implications for the rest of my life and my identity as a ball player. And anytime you suffer a major injury like that, it can have those implications. You just don't know. You might not be okay. You might not have, the same ability when you come back, or you might come back in a year. And that's a really long time to be away from your team and all that stuff. That's a real emotional situation. And it's okay to release those emotions in the form of crying or whatever, venting, all of it, to help you get through that. I had some major grief letting go of baseball, and I cried consistently trying to figure out how I was going to move on and, get through that and move on to the next phase of my life. So understand that there's a big difference between just minor pain where crying doesn't really, benefit you, and more emotional pain where the physical stuff is rooted and they're going back and forth. And that's when it's completely okay to cry, because it's helping you deal with the emotional toll of that situation. Scenario number 3. So say you're in a huge playoff run, like teams go through state and they're pushing for maybe a state championship, or say it's just the playoffs at the end of your season, whatever, it's not state. And you've just had a really long, amazing season with your teammates and you're really sad for it to come to an end. We've all seen players, cry at the end of the Super Bowl, cry when they lose their bowl game in college football, cry in the World Series, when it just comes to an end. And that is also okay. It's an emotional release. You've been doing this crazy thing the whole season. You've had your ups and downs. You've been in the dugout with your teammates. it's a big emotional thing. It's a big part of your life, right? And so it's not so much that you're sad that you lost or that you're embarrassed that you lost. It's that this whole thing that we just did together is now over. And it's really just an emotional release. And that's what you need to understand about crying, is that crying more than anything is just an emotional release. It helps you sort of purge some of your feelings, helps you talk through them afterward once you've sort of like gotten some of that out. We all know that it's a lot easier to talk about how you're feeling after you've cried a little bit and express some of that emotion. And then it allows you to start moving on from there. It's a good sort of like punctuation sometimes on a really hard scenario or a really happy scenario. At the end of one of those playoff runs or the end of that long season, it's not just sadness, the reason you're crying. It's a mixed emotion. It's like, we had such an amazing time. We did this amazing thing. I'm grateful for all the stuff that we did. And even though it didn't end the way it did, like it's still just like this purging of, wow, what a cool thing we did together. I'm sorry that it's had to come to an end. So that's completely fine if you're purging some of those emotions and you're crying at the end of a really long, exciting season. And number 4, is it just okay to cry as a man in everyday life? And the answer is yes. Real men do cry because real men deal with their problems in a constructive way, right? If you threw a baseball across the street and broke your neighbor's window, your parents would probably be like, hey, you need to go apologize and pay for and or help fix the window, whatever it is. That's you owning up to your problems and helping to fix them, right? We all have ups and downs in everyday life. We have, family members get sick, get hurt, pass away, parents get divorced, relationships end, we get dumped, we get cheated on. There's all these things that are really emotionally hard, and bottling them up and acting tough doesn't help us sort through those. They're not a solution long term for dealing with our problems in a constructive and healthy way. So real men do cry. They understand that hard times and these big emotional experiences, events that happen in life, they affect us both emotionally and physically, and crying and talking to other people about it, those are healthy ways to get that out. So do not let other people tell you that you're not allowed to cry, especially with the hard emotional ups and downs of life. Please leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts about crying as an athlete. This is a complicated topic and they have a lot of strong opinions about it, and I want to hear yours, all right? Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, share this video with a friend or your team if you're a coach, and I'll see you in the next video.